I always say I'm addicted to ceramics. Maybe it's that I don't know, maybe there's some kind of endorphins or something that relieves when you realise months of work has been worth it. I don't know. But essentially, you never know what's happening in the kiln, and and the door's closed, you can't see in, and it's 3 days, and you've spent months making something, or a series of work, especially as the kiln's big, and it's that sort of sense of excitement or anticipation or trepidation. It tends to be excitement. I'm an optimist. And yeah, it's when you look in and you think, oh, it's not how I pictured it. And then, oh, it's kind of better or worse, or it might have to go back in. Or once, maybe every 20 firings, one prays that it's going to get you in the gut. When I found these forms, the pumpkin, the pineapple as well, although that has spikes and leaves, but this sense of volume, that the clay could speak of nature, of the power and the growth, the miracle of the growth of nature, and it could have a voice. And that's really where it kind of worked for me. It's the solidity of realizing that a pot or a form that has this incredible, hopefully this ripeness and this sense of inflated volume could kind of compare or give that message of the life force. If I'd made this tree out of clay and I was glazing it, where the snow is now, that's where I'd be piling the glaze thicker. Because I know in the kiln it'll melt and describe the form, but this is exactly where I'd glaze it, heavier. Work produces work. Nicky Hicks, great sculptor, says that work makes work. You start work and then that's how it comes. You don't sit thinking about it. And that's really important. When I went from making pieces that were based on nature, and my objective was for them to be full and ripe. When I then thought about making cubes and hexagons and pyramids, it was really shocking to sort of me to think about doing that, because they're sharp and they're not in character, if you like. But I was fascinated to think of the glazes that I'd been using for 20 years, how they'd behave on sharp edges, pulling away from edges, on flat planes and moving over flat planes in a very direct, modern way, perhaps, I don't know. And I found that very exciting and a bit audacious. When I was at school, I wanted to do pottery for my BA, but everybody said you have to do a foundation and try all the arts and you might change your mind. So I did my foundation course at Bristol Poly and then didn't change my mind whatsoever. I think I knew that I just was so in love with it that there wasn't much choice. And then got onto the ceramics course a year later. And I met Mo Jupp on a rainy day, and he's tiny, tiny little wiry man. And I remember there was a great big puddle and we were heading for the canteen, and he said, how am I going to get across this puddle? I'll drown. And I picked him up and carried him across the puddle. And that was really our first meeting. And Mo was this incredibly energetic Superman of a teacher. He was part-time teacher, 1 day a week at Bristol. And I just used to look forward to the time where he was coming, because he was a doer. This philosophy of work makes work. I remember saying to him, Mo, I want to do a big bowl, a giant bowl. How do I do it? Press moulding. And he said, okay, get a piece of wood, get this, this and this, and next week we'll have the whole day to do it. He wasn't only a great teacher, but he was so fun. Well, we're all in a timeline of things. I don't want to break any moulds. I love the idea. Well, sometimes, you know, a pumpkin that I've made, if somebody came along and they didn't know I'd made it and you said this is a 17th century Chinese work of art, it's quite a believable thing, you know, in that they use the same minerals from the ground and there's a same there's a timeless empathy with certain potters, and I don't mind that. I don't mind if it's, you know, I don't want to deceive anybody, of course, but I don't mind where it is. But I do like to think that I'm part of a timeline that's a safe and secure place. You know, I'm very happy to be sat on a shelf in the V&A with a whole timeline of people who use natural colours and glazes that run.